So this is all that's left of my box of U-bends. 26 tubes gone, about 48 cuts, 24 pieces per side, per header, and about 20 hours of work to this point. And this is the scene of the crime. Did it work out? Let's find out. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel on my V10 Ultima Evolution convertible build. Hopefully you've enjoyed the build so far, and I'm getting ready to embark on a really exciting part of the project, which is fabricating the exhaust headers. As you saw in the previous two videos, again, I'll link below, I mocked them up using Ice Engine Works modeling kit. That was really fun. Took a few tries, but I got it. I think I've got a design I'm gonna run with. I've got all my parts, all my supplies, I've got my welder, my cutting tools set up, ready to go. So we're gonna get started on fabricating this header system. I'm super excited about it. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, I'm gonna start on the driver's side, and here is my plan of attack. So I'm gonna leave the engine in place, I'm gonna leave the modeling blocks in place, and what I'm gonna do is just disconnect cylinder number one, this first piece, just disconnect it up here, and then model this one out first. And this will set the point, once I get the stainless version of this, this will be the point that everything else will work from. Call it an anchor point that the rest of these will need to line up in kind of a star-shaped. Again, that will mate up to the collector. So that's my plan, is just do one piece at a time. I'll start with number one, get this modeled in, and then set in here and tacked in place, and then I'll just do one tube at a time and build that out. So let's get this first runner taken out and start to get it measured onto some U-bends, cut them up, and tack them in place. All right, I've got runner number one out on the bench here, and I fiddled with the settings a little much. I noticed I had actually had a 3-inch CLR piece accidentally mixed in with a bunch of 2-inch. So anyways, put the correct piece in here, checked it, refit it onto the car, no problem, and then here's the final piece. So anywhere you see a dashed line, I just put a clock mark so that I know where to index each piece. So here's one piece. You notice these are all lined up, these indexing marks. So that's a 2-inch CLR piece. That's one piece, followed by, so I've got 3 2-inch CLR followed by a straight piece. So that's a cut line. Another 3 2-inch cut line, and then 5 2-inch pieces followed by a couple of straights. So this is all one piece here. So 1 2 3 4. Actually ended up with 4 pieces. So rather than 5 sections, I just minimized or reduced my weld joints by 1 just by fixing that incorrect piece I had in there. So there we go. I'm going to number each one of these so that I keep track of the order. I'll preserve the indexing marks that I have here, and we'll start to transfer this onto the U-bends, cut them out, and start tacking them together. I've got all the pieces laid out, cut out here, 4 pieces. One of the other nice things that came with this Ice Engine Works kit are these little bracket holders, tube holders, that you can use to put 2 pieces of tube together to just hold it together, so when you go to test fit it on the car, you can clock the pieces the way you need to. So I've already got a couple of pieces on. It's just kind of just screws, squeeze the rings just to hold them on. So this is piece number 1. I have piece number 2 here, and I've already kind of test fitted this. So I've got some clocking marks here, but you basically slide it in like that and then just tighten this nut. And it holds it in. Nice. So let me put in number 3 here. So I've already got this test fitted in. I've got this final piece marked and clocked where this needs to go. So I'm just gonna tack these up, and then we'll test fit the final section on the car before we move on to the next piece. All right, this is, what do we got? Runner number 2. 5 joints in this one. All right, well, let's start assembling these pieces so that we can fit them up and then tack them together. All right, number 2 runner mocked up with the clamps. So these pieces held in place with these clamps. I'll tell you what, getting used to how these work is a trick. The key to it is you want the fixed point. These you don't adjust. They're nylocked in place. You want those on the inner part of a radius, and you want this adjustable piece on the outer side of a radius. So anywhere you have a radius, you want them on these adjustable sides on the outside. So it's some of the funky bends, not on this piece, on the first runner. I had a couple of funky bends that didn't work out too well with these, but in general, they're very nice, because what you could do is you can just snug them down so that you can still twist the pipe inside, so that once you get it made it up to the engine, you can adjust it slightly, lock it in, and then bring it back to the table and weld it. So far so good with this. It's a process. Not hard, it's just a little bit tedious, and just marking all your pieces with numbers and the orientation, and then going back and forth to the car to test fit it. But so far so good, so let's keep it rolling. So you saw me using my El Cheapo Harbor Freight bandsaw here. I've got it in the vertical position, and I made a 1/4 inch, just took some 1/4 inch aluminum plate and then just screwed it to the base. This is a common modification you see on all these. The one that comes with it's a little thin piece of stamped steel. I got it down here. Anyway, this seems to be working okay. The blades come off once, but I think I fixed that. It just wasn't riding correctly on the spindles. But so far so good. I'm using a 24 teeth per inch blade here. The rule of thumb is you want at minimum 3 teeth on the cut surface at any point in time. So for this 065 tubing, that works out about right. So it goes a little slow, but as long as you're patient, it does a decent job. And I've got the pulleys on this. This is adjustable speed. You can set it at 3 different speeds. I've got it on the middle setting, which is about, I think it's 100 feet, 120 feet per minute speed rate. So I looked up online some speeds and feeds, and that's around what I need to be given the material I'm cutting and the 24 TPI blade I've got there. The really nice saw is this one. This is the Evolution saw, very fitting for this project, with a carbide blade. And again, just take it slow and it just chews right through that. I've already cut, I don't know, done a dozen or so cuts, so that goes really well. And then my little Harbor Freight cheapo sander here, again, does a decent job. If you're going to do a lot of sanding and really put some pressure on this, I've noticed too much pressure and you'll just stop the belt. This is just not very powerful, but it seems to be doing the job. So that's an update on the tools that I'm using to put these pieces together. So I've got the engine hoisted up a little bit, so I removed the headers and the header flange off the engine. Got it sitting here on the bench. I'm kind of at a standstill right now. I need to sand the edges of some of these pipes so they'll slide in the collector. It's a super tight fit. And I'm at the point now where I need the collector so that I can orient the stainless steel pipes to make sure they're going to slide into place. So let me show you where I'm at, and I think I'm at a standstill until I get a pipe sander, which I just ordered, but I'm going to need to sand the outside of these pipes at the collector end because they just won't slide in. The fit is just too tight. So anyway, let me show you where I'm at. All right, so here is the header. By the way, I upgraded to this is a 1-inch aluminum block, make a good heat sink. So I upgraded. I still got the steel one over here, but I decided to use an aluminum one. It'll really help draw the heat out when I start to weld these to the flange, and I don't want the flange to warp. Anyway, here is number 1 runner. I've got this in place. I've checked and rechecked it in the car. It's at the right angle, and this is key because all the other runners are basically indexed off this number 1. So This was the tightest fitting runner on the system. I've already got number 2 mocked up, and I've got the second half of it here. Go something like that. But as you can see, I need the collector there so that I can do the fine tune adjusting. And luck would have it that this runner number 1 tube slides right in perfectly all the way up. But the rest of these tubes just will not slide. So here's the 2 of them. I tried to hand sand it a little bit just to, I don't know, maybe shave 1/1000th of an inch off from that or something. But it's just too snug. I can force fit it, and I know I want a tight tolerance fit, but it's just I just need to take about 1/1000th off from that so it will just slide in easier. And for whatever reason, this 2-inch CLR piece, it's just a little bit, the diameter is probably 1/1000th or 2/1000ths less than some of these other pipes. So in fact, see, I just set that in there and I can't even get it out. I tried sanding the inner diameter of the collector. That helped a little bit, but again, it's just too snug of a fit, and I really need it just to slide in easier to help me mock these up. Look at that, I can't even get it out. So that's a little bit of a speed bump in my setup here. So I'm just gonna get that pipe sander. I think I might release a video now. It's been, I don't know, 8 days or 10 days anyway. I'll show you guys how I did the side pods, finish those up, and then obviously where we're at here. So it'll be a few days before I get that pipe sander so I can keep going. So I did a little bit more thinking, and while I still need a pipe sander, belt pipe sander to bring the diameter of those pipes down just to, I don't know, 5 or 6/1000ths of an inch, I happen to think what I'll do is 3D print a fixture that will allow me to proceed while I wait for the pipe sander, and then obviously I'll need that for the final fit up. So let me show you what I did, and I think this is gonna be key when I complete fabricating these runners here. So take a look at this. So here is my 3D printed fixture, and it just snug fits onto the runner tubes, which works out great. So what I can do there is just use that in place of the actual collector, and that will let me run and route all the pipes so that they're positioned exactly where they need to be when I get the collector. Anyway, that should work out well. Now I can continue on putting these pipes together while I wait for that pipe sander. So pretty cool. Let's do it. All right, so here is another component of the Ice Engine Works kit, and it's basically this cut plate. Pretty simple, actually. It's just a piece of aluminum, looks like 1/4 inch aluminum. You stick on these, just these sliding pads to make it easy to slide. And then it comes with various size. This is the 3-inch CLR template, and this is what you use to put your piece on, and then you can angle this to get the correct angle. And what it does is it ensures that you're cutting right on the center line so that you get a perfect cut every time. Now, as you've seen, I've been freehanding it some of the time, or most of the time, because the throat on this bandsaw interferes with this plate. So I'm about, I don't know, 1/4 inch away from being able to cut all the way through. But I think I'm going to try to just start using this to get obviously 80% of the cut done. Then I can just finish it by hand the rest of the way, because this really does help align the blade with the exact center. So you're cutting your pipe exactly at the correct angle. Basically what I'm using is the model. Use the model itself to line up the blade. So, and I've got a straight line on my base, bandsaw base that I'm using to keep 100% in line with the blade. But basically what I do is just get the blade to touch the model. Make sure it's all flat, then tighten this piece up. Then we're good to go. Put our actual metal tube on, cut away, and then you've got the perfect cut angle there. So no need putting any marks or measurements on here, just use the model itself. So here is the driver's side header, all tacked in place, doing a final fitment check here. I had a heat shield tested and checked as well, although you don't see it in this shot. But all is good. So now I just need to mirror this header for the passenger side. I'm hoping it takes me a little less than 10 hours that it took me on this one side. I learned quite a bit, so I'm hoping it goes a little bit faster. So let's get to it. we made it. Both passenger and driver side headers all tacked up, fitted. I've got them on the car here, but before I show you what it looks like, just a quick update on how the tools fared. So obviously cutting stainless steel is pretty hard material. It's pretty rough on the equipment. And I managed to make it with a single Olson blade. Can't recommend these blades enough. That blade is still going strong. Olson 24 TPI blade worked great. As far as my Evolution saw blade, actually there's a few who asked on my channel about how these blades hold up. That blade is pretty much dead. It cuts through, but now it's starting to overheat the pipe, and there's a lot of call it slag on these pipes, so it's not cutting clean anymore. It's certainly not as easy as it used to, but it made it through a set of headers, so pretty pleased with that. That blade's about 90 bucks. They don't give those away, but the speed of it is well worth it. And then as far as my sanding discs, I'm on my sander. This is ready to be changed. It's about shot. That's an 80 grit belt there. That's about shot. And I did have to change this with about, I don't know, half a dozen or so cuts to go. I had a 80 grit body sanding pad that I just put on there because I didn't have any others. There's the remnants. Unfortunately, that's all scrap. I'm probably going to use a few of those pieces to practice some finish welding before I get going on the actual headers. All that's going to be used for is scrap. So without further ado, let's show you what we got here. So again, this is the driver's side, obviously. And the one thing I am gonna do is you'll notice the first pipe I set, cylinder number 1, it's actually about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch shorter than the rest of these. So I am going to, when I disassemble this to finish weld all the runners, I am gonna just trim the 4 other cylinders down to match. Every pipe on the passenger side is actually this length already, so now that I had these 3D printed collector template made, it just made it a lot easier. So the passenger side was a lot easier. So that's the only mod I have to do there. A little bit extra trimming before I finish weld these up. And then for the passenger side, there we go. So I've got the heat shield in place on this one. Had to make a little trim in the heat shield for some clearance, but other than that, no additional modification necessary. It fits. And you'll notice each of the runners is the exact same length on this side. And again, I'll make them equal on the driver's side as well. From a clearance standpoint, the one modification I did do from the original design was I swapped cylinder. In this case, this is cylinder 9 and 10. What I did was originally the last cylinder in the bay came around on the outside, so these were flip-flopped. And what I did was I flip-flopped them just to get this cylinder, rather than coming out here, it now loops up over and then feeds in. So this just makes it more compact, the tubes compact, and keeps the heat up and away from the tank as well. So you can see there's not a lot of overhang on this fuel tank based on where the runners are. And then from a clearance standpoint, I've got a solid, call it 2.5 inches back here, and then it kind of angles down to about, a solid 1.5 inches on this end. So really nice clearance there. And again, the engine's sitting on the frame right now completely, where it will be in its final position. And then on the driver's side, same thing as far as clearance. I basically replicated the clearance. So you can see there's plenty of clearance in here and underneath. Like I said, I'm still going to do heat shielding on the frame rails here to give this tank some double protection, but that should work out really nice. Next step in the process is to take the headers off and then cut the tacks at the flange, separate each pipe and weld up each pipe completely, and then reassemble it to the flange and finish weld it at the flange. So that's the next step in the process. It shouldn't be too hard. Hopefully I don't mess it up, because I don't want to have to redo any of this. That's why I think I'm going to practice on some of these spare pieces, scrap pieces, to make sure my torch is set up right. I've got the right filler rod and technique down to get it right. Pretty excited about this. I think it came out nice. All right, so let me leave you with one last shot to show you the symmetry of both headers on this engine. Hopefully this focuses on both sides, but a pretty good symmetry on both sides of the engine. There's some minor differences in both of them, but in general, I'm pretty happy with how that symmetry came out between both sides. I'm gonna get back to it, and we'll see you on the next video.